Sex in the morning, men putting themselves at risk, and why Shawville is cheering the Mighty Ducks.
Tonight, did Health Canada dismiss a mad cow warning from a group of its own scientists?
Why wouldn't they listen?
They claim the agency has been ignoring their concerns over feed for years.
The Iraqi regime is no more.
So what happened to all those weapons of mass destruction? And hitting the brakes, police fear a new film sets a crash course for teen drivers.
CTV News with Llyod Robertson.
Good evening. From the very beginning of the mad cow scare, there have been lingering suspicions cattle feed may have been the cause. Tonight, in a CTV News exclusive, we hear from a scientist who says she warned Health Canada more than 2 years ago about mad cow prevention procedures. There is no evidence yet to suggest Canada's lone case of the disease was caused by contaminated feed, but that has been the focus of the investigation. And scientists say if feed turns out to be the source, mad cow may have been preventable. CTV's Jennifer Tryon is covering this story for us tonight. Jennifer?
Llyod, some of the questions about contaminated feed being the culprit in Canada's mad cow case could have been buried long ago, according to some senior scientists at Health Canada, if only the government had listened to their concerns. Canada's case of mad cow disease has come as no surprise to these scientists.
It was bound to happen.
Bound to happen, these 4 Health Canada scientists say, because Health Canada has ignored their warnings that ruminant feed could spread mad cow disease. In 1997, Canada banned ruminant feeds, or giving cows feed made from slaughtered cows, to prevent the disease. But this feed is still fed to other livestock. The worry is they'll eat each other's feed and cross-contamination could occur. How long have you been telling Health Canada that this shouldn't be the way we practice?
Well, that's back since February of 2001.
In a document dated 2001 and obtained by CTV News, Dr. Margaret Hayden expresses her fears about ruminant animal feed coming into Canada.
This is a disease that is perpetuated and spread by human hands because we are feeding animals back to animals.
But her department says then and now the restrictions in place are safe.
Given this finding, we're looking at is more needed. We are looking to see how the investigation unrolls. The fact that all of the testing so far has been negative.
Why are we taking this risk? It's such a simple thing that you don't feed it and the disease stops. It doesn't spread. It's as simple as that. Why wouldn't they listen?
So they're speaking out again, urging Health Canada to implement an immediate ban on feed containing rendered animal material, as it's the primary cause for spreading the disease. The health minister says she received the latest letter, but nothing about previous concerns.
Well, to my knowledge, it was the first time I was approached. And I received the letter.
Coincidentally, 3 days later, Dr. Chopra was suspended from his job.
I have no proof that this is the reason why it happened, but it makes you wonder.
So with confidence in Canadian beef somewhat tarnished in recent weeks, what kind of faith do Canada's senior veterinarians have in what Canadians have to eat? They say they gave up eating beef a long time ago. Llyod?
Thank you, Jennifer. CTV's Jennifer Tryon. And here's where we are with the investigation into the country's single case of mad cow disease. Canadian Food Inspection Agency officials had some encouraging news today. Tests on 230 more cattle have come back negative. That brings to 1,200 the number of animals that have been killed and tested for the brain-wasting disease. All results have been negative. On Parliament Hill, the opposition says the federal government is not moving quickly enough to help the cattle industry. The Liberals insist they are working on a relief package. Another health concern, of course, is SARS. The number of Canadian deaths attributed to SARS was actually reduced today to 31, after a review showed that 1 death in Toronto last month was not a SARS case. But the economic impact of the outbreak is showing no signs of diminishing. Performances of the long-running stage show Mamma Mia will be suspended in Toronto during July and August for lack of advanced sales to the American market. The show will go on in the fall. And Canadian stars like Dan Aykroyd are being asked to help promote Toronto tourism. Jason Priestley may also support the program, which 5 major banks have launched with $1 million in startup funds. Turning to the economy now, the Canadian dollar is in very good shape tonight. It rose today by 0.73% U.S. to 74.39 cents U.S. That's the highest level in 6 years. And with me from Report on Business Television, CTV's Mike Eppel. Mike, what's the reason for this latest surge in our dollar?
And 2 factors today, Lloyd. First off, the European Central Bank cut their benchmark interest rate by a larger than expected 0.5% down to 2% even, lowest rate for Europe since 1948. And we got more weakness showing up in the U.S. economy. Factory orders down in April, and the latest reading on first-time jobless claims a lot weaker than expected. Lots of people talking about even lower interest rates in the U.S. Our rates here are higher, money flowing into the Canadian dollar.
Right. Now, there are expectations for tomorrow, too, with new information coming out on both sides of the border.
Yes, we get the May unemployment rates for both Canada and the U.S. Our economy expected to hold steady on unemployment at 7.5%. The U.S. jobless rate, though, could be going up to 6.1% with more jobs lost, and that'll just feed on this talk of lower interest rates and could send our dollar even higher still.
Thanks, Mike.
You're welcome.
If you think you're paying too much for car insurance these days, you're not alone. Even the Bank of Canada is concerned about the soaring costs and their impact on inflation. In one province, it's a major election issue, and a lot of Canadians are upset about it. We have a report tonight from CTV's John Benavali-Rao.
If motorists were to drive home one point about insurance rates, it's that they're out of control.
I think it's unfair.
It's ridiculous. Something really needs to be done.
Tom Davis, who's been accident-free, couldn't believe it when his bill nearly doubled this year. When he asked why,
one clerk or somebody wrote me and said, just be happy it didn't go up anymore.
Never have consumers seen anything like it. Rates up 50% in Alberta over the last year, 40% in most of the Maritimes. Only the provinces with non-profit public insurance have been spared huge hikes. Private insurers say they have to charge more, with payouts for injury claims skyrocketing along with health care costs.
The cost of repairing the vehicles has been relatively well behaved over this period. The biggest pressure is on injuries associated with car accidents.
But critics argue insurance companies lost big on the stock market post 9/11, and they're gouging consumers to make up for it. The rise in rates accounting for 1/3 of inflation in this country. The Bank of Canada so concerned it's launching a rate review.
Obviously, these price increases will make their way through the rest of the economy and could be an inflationary factor.
Provincial governments are striking back. In Ontario, the finance minister is promising new regulations to rein in rates. In New Brunswick, insurance has been the #1 election issue, some predicting it could cost Premier Bernard Lord dearly. Robert Wambold had to quit his minimum wage job, unable to afford his car, which he used to get to work.
Just a little bit greedy, as far as I'm concerned.
But insurance companies say it won't get better unless the provinces take steps to lower payouts on injury claims, and they warn there could be more price hikes down the road. John Benavali-Rao, CTV News, Halifax.
On the international scene tonight, weapons of mass destruction. Mere weeks ago on TV, radio, and in print, the words were like a mantra, and they were supposed to be the reason for going to war in Iraq. Well, they still haven't turned up. What is turning up is the heat, especially in Washington and London, from people high and low who say it is time for some answers. CTV's Kathy Tomlinson has the latest.
The longer they search and don't find anything, the louder the criticism.
Like millions of Americans, I'm wondering where the hell the weapons of mass destruction are.
The weapons of mass destruction the U.S. and Britain said Iraq had were, of course, the justification for war.
The Commission has not at any time during the inspections in Iraq found evidence of the...
Now there's no proof there were any, says the UN's chief weapons inspector in his latest report.
In fact, when you look back over the years, very little has been found since '94.
It is completely and totally untrue.
The British Prime Minister is taking the heat again for reports he pressured Britain's intelligence service into exaggerating the evidence.
The whole credibility of his government rests on clearing up these charges.
We haven't found Saddam Hussein, and I don't know anyone who's running around saying he didn't exist.
The U.S. president has stopped saying the weapons exist, now saying only,
We're on the look. We'll reveal the truth. But one thing is certain, no terrorist network will gain weapons of mass destruction from the Iraqi regime because the Iraqi regime is no more.
Bush also got his first look at Iraq as his plane flew over on its way home. U.S. analysts say next time he asks other countries for help, he may not get it.
They're going to be less likely to believe any allegations that United States levels against any other country about, weapons of mass destruction and links to terrorists.
There are several investigations here into whether the weapons threat was exaggerated. One allegation that the Pentagon took hearsay evidence from disgruntled Iraqi dissidents and presented it as fact. Kathy Tomlinson, CTV News, Washington.
There may be no signs of Saddam Hussein in the flesh, but more videotape of the deposed Iraqi leader is turning up. Home video, believed to be from 1990, shows Saddam at the birthday party of his youngest daughter, Hala. There are reports this footage was stolen from one of his palaces after the fall of Baghdad. It's creating quite a stir in the Iraqi capital, with tapes being snapped up at outdoor markets by curious Iraqis wanting a glimpse of their former leader in another era. A top-level shakeup at the New York Times is making the kind of headlines a famous newspaper doesn't need. It's what happens when a couple of reporters don't let the truth get in the way of a good story. That's just ahead. And later, America's Queen of Clean launches a campaign to reclaim a soiled reputation. Still to come on CTV News.
Mr. Bond. My friends call me James Bond.
Own the most exciting Bond DVD ever, with over 7 hours of extras.
Does that include me?
Die Another Day, the 2-disc special edition DVD. Rent or buy it today.
Cool. That's unbelievable. That's... Yes! Oh, yeah.
Paying less at Future Shop never loses its excitement.
Wow!
It happens a lot.
Make Dad's day with a Future Shop gift card. It's easy, and Dad gets exactly what he wants, like a digital camcorder or digital camera, or the latest DVDs, CDs, and more. Future Shop. Come see what your future has in store.
This year, to get our holiday started on the right foot, we went to Canadian Tire.
To get this, the new MotoMaster Power Inverter. Just plug it into your car's cigarette lighter, and you've got a convenient 110-volt electrical outlet.
That gives you enough power to run a portable TV VCR unit, perfect for keeping the kids entertained on the long drive, or running my laptop so I can catch up with work on the road.
You can charge the batteries on your cell phone, your camcorder, your electric razor, even your cordless drill.
Obviously, he never leaves home without his tools.
It's also great around the campsite to keep things clean and keep things cool.
And on the boat for a little music or light when you need it.
Stay connected wherever you go. The 175-watt MotoMaster Power Inverter is only $39.99, and the 400-watt with 2 plugs is only $59.99. Another innovative product found only at Canadian Tire stores and online.
Reloaded is thrilling. 2 thumbs way up. It's a breathtaking spectacle. A dazzling summer blockbuster. The Matrix Reloaded. Now playing everywhere.
The New York Times is lauded the world over as one of the most prestigious papers on the planet. Its readers are everywhere, including a large number in Canada. What a shock, then, to discover that a huge journalism scandal has erupted within the paper itself. 2 of its reporters were caught plagiarizing and faking stories. Both reporters had to go, and now the executive editor and the managing editor have followed them out the door. CTV's Janice Mackey-Frayer has more.
The New York Times is stained with more than just ink these days, but the paper is hoping to turn the page on its own tumultuous story.
I can't believe that that good things will not come. It's just a great newspaper.
But one that has seen better days, given the scandal around Jason Blair, a rising star at the Times who quit last month after admitting to plagiarizing stories and inventing quotes. The newspaper launched an exhaustive internal audit that found problems in 36 of 73 articles Blair had written. They're still sifting through hundreds more. But the turmoil didn't end there.
I think there are a lot of New York Times reporters.
The investigation also forced the resignation of Rick Bragg, a Pulitzer Prize winner who admitted to putting his name on a story done largely by a freelance writer.
Nothing could be worse for a journalistic organization than to have something like this happen. You lose your credibility.
Which is why managing editor Gerald Boyd and executive editor Howell Raines lost their jobs, both taking the fall for allowing Blair to cover big stories like the Washington sniper case, despite complaints about his work.
But that was part of the culture of the Times, was sort of kind of an arrogant culture that says, you know, we're not going to police ourselves. We're the New York Times.
Other journalists believe mistakes are bound to happen to reporters caught up in a fiercely competitive media environment.
Now everything has to be done very quickly, and I think that partly is where the problems come.
Both editors who resigned over the Blair affair were 20-year veterans of the newspaper. As for Jason Blair, he recently boasted about his deceptions in a magazine article, actually taking pride in having fooled the most brilliant people in journalism. He says he's looking for a book deal and may even write it himself. Janice Mackey-Freyer, CTV News, Ottawa.
And to a very different kind of scandal, one that has stained the reputation of lifestyle diva Martha Stewart. One day after she was charged with securities fraud, Stewart launched a campaign to redeem her celebrity status. She still faces a long legal battle, but as Betsy Stark reports, Stewart is vowing to prove her innocence.
The criminal indictment of the 61-year-old Stewart was front-page news all over the country today.
It's a big story because she's a celebrity.
But inside this paper and on a new website called Martha Talks, Stewart was laying out her version of events. I simply returned a call from my stockbroker, she said. I am innocent, and I will fight to clear my name.
This is beyond a public relations nightmare. This is a public relations nightmare plus.
The soiling of Stewart's name is a huge liability for her business, which is built entirely upon it.
If I can do it, you can do it.
Since the federal investigation began about a year ago, profits, circulation, ad revenues, and new business development are all down.
Only time and a good turnaround plan will tell, if they can move on from this.
You haven't seen anything yet.
Marketing experts say part of that plan needs to be a new message that's less about Martha and more about the lifestyle she sells, a process the company has already begun.
That report from Betsy Stark of ABC News. And one more celebrity note, there is word out of New York tonight that a TV movie is in the works about Senator and former U.S. First Lady Hillary Clinton. The movie will be based on Gail Sheehy's bestseller, Hillary's Choice. Hillary Clinton herself has written her own book called Living History, which goes on sale next week. The family of a severely disabled Quebec woman is looking for answers into how she died and who might have killed her. A lawsuit claims hospital doctors failed for years to detect a fatal disease. But what's more shocking is how she might have contracted it. That's just ahead. A look at what's coming up in local news is next.
Tonight on CJOH News at 11:30. The dangers of men seeking sexual favors on their way to work. Why Shawville is cheering for the Anaheim Mighty Ducks. And where you'll find affordable art in a park this weekend.
CTV, Canadian television.
There's nothing quite like a professional car wash.
Especially when it's right in your own driveway. With the Simonized S1500 pressure washer that I found at Canadian Tire. It comes with a detergent injection system and onboard container. There are also a variety of cleaning agents to clean stains from all types of surfaces. Remove grime from your driveway, grease from your barbecue, dirt from siding, and clean your deck thoroughly to make it look as good as new. Its high-pressure jet provides 35 times more power than your garden hose.
It also comes with a turbo nozzle that boosts your cleaning power. It's great on flagstones and cement. It blasts away stains, mold, and more. What else could you ask for?
How about cleaning the fence?
The Simonized S1500 pressure washer with onboard container, only $249.99. Or pick up the S1650 with dual container to switch detergents easily, only $299.99. Innovative products found only at Canadian Tire stores and online.
Introducing Instant Bingo's birthday bonus. $2 million in extra prize money and more ways to win. Hurry to your lottery retailer today.
The Home Depot is more than a store. It's licensed professional installation through at-home services. From concept to cleanup and beyond, all of the work is backed by a solid Home Depot guarantee. So at-home services is installation you can trust. Everything from beautiful kitchens to gorgeous countertops to floors, windows, and doors. At-home services from the Home Depot. You can do it. We can help. Right now, get 15% off all special order hard surface flooring with installation.
A grim story now concerning accusations of negligence and sexual assault that are swirling around a Montreal psychiatric hospital. The family of a severely disabled former patient is suing the hospital for $500,000. Relatives of Isabelle Leroux claim hospital officials are responsible for the 31-year-old woman's death. CTV's Jed Kahane explains.
It's been 3 years since she died, and Isabelle Leroux's family is still searching for answers about how she developed terminal cervical cancer without her doctors at the Rivière-des-Prairies Hospital so much as noticing. Isabelle lived here for 25 years, severely disabled and unable to speak, and according to the lawsuit, the victim of one or many sexual assaults that she clearly could not have consented to. By the time her cancer was diagnosed at another hospital, she was in her dying days. Doctors told her family the cancer was caused by a sexually transmitted disease that went untreated for years.
There was abuse on a vulnerable person. There was abuse on your beloved one. It is very, very difficult to accept.
The suit says medical records show Isabelle had serious gynecological symptoms for a decade, but no tests were done. Police have yet to charge anyone for the alleged sexual assault, but the family's lawyer says the perpetrator wasn't a patient.
Other patients in this unit are so crippled themselves that it is extremely unlikely that any one of them could have done that.
The hospital wouldn't comment, citing legal reasons, but this is not the first controversy it's faced. Last year, one of its nurses was convicted of sexual assault and jailed for 4 years after this patient became pregnant. Both cases have only intensified calls for patients to be deinstitutionalized and cared for in the community. There's a code of silence in those psychiatric wards, says patient advocate Doris Provencher. We should shut them down. Or at least, says Isabelle's family, ensure they're held accountable when things go wrong. Jed Kahane, CTV News, Montreal.
In other news of this day, a female suicide bomber attacks a bus carrying soldiers and civilians at an airfield in southern Russia near Chechnya. At least 16 people die. It's the third such attack in 3 weeks by a woman suicide bomber. Pope John Paul begins his 100th pilgrimage with a visit to Croatia. He urges leaders of the former Yugoslav Republic to heal the wounds of war. And Canadian light heavyweight boxing champion Michael Walchuk is suspended for 4 years after testing positive for cocaine. He had been scheduled to compete at the Pan Am Games in August. When we return, too fast, too furious, and is it too dangerous? A new Hot Rodders movie roars into the theaters this weekend. Fans can't wait, but don't expect the police to stand up and cheer. Next on CTV News.
This family reunion didn't start with the arrival of the guests. It started with some careful preparations. A trip to Canadian Tire.
64,000 BTUs. That's enough power to feed a small army.
And a very special trip down memory lane. Funny how where you end up has a lot to do with where you start.
Did you know that 1 out of 2 adult Canadians is at increased risk of developing heart disease because they have high cholesterol? And that cardiovascular disease is the leading cause of death in Canada? If just one of the following applies to you, make the connection. And speak to your doctor about being tested for high cholesterol. Cholesterol testing could change your life. And above all, avoid hurting the ones you love.
Give it back! Give it back! Give it back!
The Kia Sedona, with a quadruple 5-star safety rating and the best warranty in the business. No minivan is safer. Take advantage of great purchase financing or lease rates today.
Just imagine you can.
It's Kenmore Days at Sears. Canada's #1 selling brand of major appliances is on sale now. Save on a huge selection of Kenmore washers, dryers, and more. Use your Sears card and get 0% financing until June 2005. Kenmore Days end Saturday.
See it all, it can be. Come to Sears.
June 15th, the elite of speed. Come to tear up the track on the only Canadian stop on the Formula One Tour. Gentlemen, start your engines. The Air Canada Grand Prix. June 15th on CTV.
Closed captioning of this program is brought to you in part by the new crispy chicken Caesar salad from Dairy Queen. DQ something different.
And finally for us tonight, police across the country are hoping that life doesn't imitate art this weekend. A new Hollywood blockbuster about street racing is set to hit the big screen. And there are fears thousands of Canadian teens will get behind the wheel and mimic their cinematic counterparts. CTV's Dominic Patton has more.
It's become a sure sign of summer. High-speed street races that attract hundreds of car fans, the law, and sometimes death. The sequel to Fast and the Furious, a movie that inspired a lot of street racers, is out Friday, and police have a new aggressive program of more officers and high-tech equipment.
This one is a joint effort between the Greater Toronto Area Police Services to, I guess if you will, eliminate street racing, or certainly try and put a dent in it.
There are more than an estimated 20,000 modified cars in Toronto, and at least 19 street racing-related deaths since 1998. Even the star of Too Fast, Too Furious is warning against the dangers of the very actions his movie's about.
Look, I may push the driving limits on screen, but in real life, I drive safely and responsibly.
Sunday
In Vancouver, another street racing hotspot where an RCMP officer was killed last year, police are watching Toronto's new aggressive approach.
What we tend to see here in Vancouver is we see the end result of the street racing. We see the fatalities and the crashes.
A good number.
Some car enthusiasts say street racing is fast becoming a non-issue.
It's on the decline and it's becoming almost nothing. I think that the police are taking a hard-line approach or an enforcement line approach to a sport that they have no idea of what it actually may be, and as a result they're making a general stereotype of anybody who drives a modified car.
For those who do race, this summer they'll be able to take it to a track 100 kilometers outside Toronto.
And get these kids off the streets and onto a track in a safe and controlled environment.
In the first big meet of the season, hundreds of car enthusiasts are expected to fill the parking lot in front of this theater in suburban Toronto. The police will also be out in force, hoping the thrill of Too Fast, Too Furious doesn't translate into the need for speed. Dominic Patton, CTV News, Toronto.
And that's the kind of day it's been on this Thursday, June 5th. Tomorrow, June 6th, on the anniversary of D-Day, Craig Oliver will report for us tomorrow night from Juno Beach in Normandy on the unveiling of a new Canadian Memorial Centre. Local news is next. I'm Llyod Robertson. For all of us here at CTV News, good night.
CTV News, Canada's #1 newscast.